curious what side you are on. Are you in favor of Mr. Trump siding with Senator Schumer and Representative Pelosi, or are you with the hardliners who see it as a betrayal of those who put him in office?
What I am in favor of is getting things done. The president talked about when he was running and when folks put him into office to get deals done, to do things, to move things forward for the American people. And I think that both sides, I think that doing deals like that sort of marginalizes absolutists, if you will, who don't play well with others, both on the left who are saying resist, 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 and on the right who don't play well with others. So I think it's important for the Congress, for the administration to get things done for the American people, and people should have a seat at the table. So I don't see it as a bad thing for trying to get things done. Now, obviously, Democrats have to understand Americans put Republicans in office, so we will be leading on policies. But they should also have a seat at the table, and their people should demand, the folks that elected them, that they have a seat at the table. So I don't necessarily see this thing as a bad thing to be able to work across the aisle. I personally do it, with my own legislation as well. Okay.
So, Congressman, you've probably seen this video of Trump supporters burning the Make America Great hats, following word of this potential immigration deal. So if you have one, is your hat still intact? Do you think a lot of his supporters, maybe even more broadly Republicans, have some buyer's remorse, at least to some degree?
Probably the absolutist, of course, but the president was very clear when he was running that he was a deal maker and wanted to get things done. So I don't think that this is a majority of his supporters by any means whatsoever. But he has to govern. We have to govern. So, again, all your viewers out there, I'm sure they don't have anybody in their lives that they agree with 100% of the time. So, we have to come together as Americans, and you're seeing them do that. So I'm not concerned about folks burning his hat. I don't think that's even close to any big number of his majority.
What about the White House, which, as you know, is denying the Wall Street Journal report that the administration may no longer be seeking to get out of the Paris Climate Accords if the administration is sending now mixed signals on this to the international community? Do you think Trump voters will or should see this as another slap in the face?
To be fair, one of your last guests was saying that the president was also saying before that, hey, listen, I want to renegotiate for better terms for America, which I agree with. I agree with that. So I don't know exactly what the European official who was commented, who they didn't say who he was. I don't know if what he was hearing or anything like that, but I think it is important that we get better terms for America for the Paris climate deal. And it's obvious that this president, if he does get a better deal, he's willing to deal, if you will. So I don't oppose that. I think that we should get better terms for America for that deal.
So I want to talk about North Korea and do this beyond the Rocket Man tweet, because you are a former Navy SEAL. You have done tours in Iraq. What comes to mind when the administration officials raise the possibility of military options in Pyongyang? Is that something that should be thrown around lightly?
Well, of course not. It shouldn't be thrown around lightly, but you have to understand that we've been dealing with North Korea for the past 25, 30 years as they steadily march towards having ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles, miniaturizing nuclear technology. And look, it would be unacceptable for any president, Democrat or Republican, if he was shooting missiles off of the coast of California, for example, or over our airspace. We can't allow that to happen. Under this administration, they have introduced a couple different, like for example, force, the element of force, which has brought China to the table. They've publicly denounced them. They've stopped some shipments of importing coal. They've come with us with the UN resolutions, which is unlike anything before. It is tense. There's no question about that. But we have to do something, and this president has the ability, any American president, quite frankly, to forge consensus around the world to be able to do something with this. I think the president, when he's in Asia in November, should go to China and talk to China. I think that would make a huge diplomatic symbol. And I also do think that we should, in conjunction with our partners in South Korea and Japan, talk about potentially shooting down a missile. I think we should do that. And I know that raises the tensions, but we have to do something. Obviously, the past 25, 30 years of appeasement has not worked.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.